today's episode of the CHGO Cubs podcast, Alex Bregman is a Red Sox. Where do the Cubs go, if anywhere, from here? Jed spoke about the budget, ownership, the rest of the roster. We will talk about all of that and more as we get ready for spring training on the CHGO Cubs podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on Friday, this February 14th. No one I'd rather be with on Valentine's Day, Brendan.
Look at us. Look at us. You know, it's good to see you, Corey. It's a very romantic episode we have going on over here.
Yeah, sure. If that's how we want to phrase it. So, a lot to talk about on this episode. Sometimes in these spring training episodes, just kind of looking at video and, hey, this guy looked good, or, we saw an interesting interview the other day with Matthew Boyd. Kyle Tucker was there in Cubs camp on Thursday, I think, for the first time, and, Cubs gear, doing baseball stuff. But we've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about first. I want to talk about the Alex Bregman saga that is over. He is not a Chicago Cub. Where the Cubs go from there, if anywhere, the Matt Shaw of it all. I want to talk about a little bit about Jed's comments and the payroll stuff. Cody and Luke did an episode on Thursday where they really went through Jed's comments and really kind of reacted to it as the rest of the internet did. All together. So I would direct you there for, if you want, a longer discussion on that. And then I want to talk about, again, Jed said one of his comments was, we feel like this is pretty close to the group that we're going to have, maybe some minor moves, but the major stuff probably isn't going to be there, et cetera, et cetera. Talking about this team. If these are the 2025 Cubs, we're going to continue our conversation on those players and not a bunch of hypotheticals and stuff like that. But since we spent so much time talking about Alex Bregman, and then, Jed really openly talking financials on Thursday, kind of more openly than we've heard him, I think, really ever. I do want to touch on that a little bit so that you and I can offer our thoughts. So first, I'll throw it to you, Brendan. I think you and I were both into the Bregman thing on the right deal and, with the right parameters. With the way the Red Sox went about that, 3/120, but a good amount of money deferred, so AAV per year more in the 30 range. Cubs, depending on who you listen to, supposedly in the 115, 120 range. How'd you feel when that news broke? How'd you feel about it all?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising they got out, but that was always my assumption. I didn't realize the Red Sox would be the team doing this, but what happened was he went to the highest bidder. Yes, it's 3 years, 120. The present day value makes it $30 million per year. The Cubs offered 4 years, 115 for an annual rate of just over $28 million. Alex Bregman goes to the Red Sox. He gets an opt-out after each year. He'll be making present day value $30 million. Gets to play at a historical ballpark like Wrigley, but in Boston, on a team with a similar competitive window and a similar budget. So the Cubs lost out on $2 million per year. And the rationale for why they missed is it did not fit their budget. And it did not push Jed over the top despite him asking for ownership to give out that deal and push their budget.
Yeah, so I think a lot of interesting stuff comes out of what Jed said on Thursday. The usual caveat that he's going to give to the media what he wants to get. Now, as a, guy
He's been
more
more open
contract.
lately.
Say again?
He's been more open lately.
Yeah, I mean, look, he doesn't have a contract beyond this.
Yeah.
So, maybe he is trying to offer some thoughts on maybe he feels hamstrung. Maybe he's saying what he wants to get the agents to think their money situation is a certain way. You never know.
You think he's justifying this behavior for his next employer? I'm not going to be too pessimistic over here.
I mean, at a certain point, what reason do you have to continuously hide the 8 ball, right? At some point, like, just say what's going on. But that's a different discussion. But I think one of the more interesting things that came out on Thursday was the aggressiveness for Bregman and the money that they were ready to commit. Whatever source you believe on that, somewhere in the range near $30 million that they were willing to go, or maybe slightly less, right? The key was Jed was making it seem as though that was for Alex Bregman and Alex Bregman only. Maybe other players earlier in the offseason, but at this point, it is not a situation where they have $30 million earmarked to spend before they break camp and head to Tokyo. It was $30 million that would have been pushing where their budget is for Alex Bregman, and they got the green light for that. So my initial thought on that, here's what I'm going to say blanketly, because I don't want to relitigate our thoughts on ownership, payroll, and all of these things. So I tweeted this, and this is how I feel about it. You guys, if you've been listening to us for any period of time, you know how we feel about all of this. I feel a couple things. The 3 things. One, with the way the franchise is valued, how much it's ballooned since they bought it, the real estate, all these investments, the ticket price, everything. The Ricketts should be spending more. They should be more aggressive. They should have been more aggressive years ago, etc. They should always be in the top 5 or so in payroll with the organization that they are. 2, if they are so hamstrung, and it's not just Tom being cheap, but they're hamstrung because they don't have the liquidity, or there's debt, or all these other things, then I think it's time the media, everybody, start directing some of this at Crane Kenning. If your business isn't cash flow positive, or you need to break even, and it's not just like billionaire greed at the top, why aren't we talking about how poorly the business is run? Then, if the money's not there, it seems like there'd be a lot of people that could succeed with the brand of the Chicago Cubs. And if every offseason we're having these conversations, maybe we direct some of the attention away from Tom and to the person who's making these deals, who's signing the RSN deal 10 years after that was an applicable thing for teams to be doing. My third thought is, even if all of that is true, to whatever degree, Jed Hoyer right now, at present, I believe has spent on his payroll $90 million more than the Milwaukee Brewers. Something in that range, depending on arbitration and all those other things. He has to be able to beat them, given that gap. Those are the things I feel. I don't want to relitigate it all bit by bit. Those are my general thoughts. And overall, every time a move like this gets made, Brendan, it turns into a dumpster fire of ownership and money and this and that. And I'm just like, those are my thoughts. They're always going to be my thoughts. There you go.
We've been doing this
So long.
so long. 5 years. Actually, date back to the Harper era for almost 7 years. Of course, yeah, the ownership should spend more money. To your point, if you're not cash flow positive where you are prohibited from giving out deferrals, it's justifiable to just ask why. How come that's happening? And if there's business operations to be optimized, of course, media, fans should question if that's possible. I don't frankly care anymore. I'm sick of talking about business operations. I care about just watching baseball.
Yeah.
Okay? I want to watch games on TV, listen to Pat Hughes, watch practice, watch games on the backfields. The likelihood is the Cubs get sold again in our lifetimes. The average lifespan for an owner is 10 to 15 years. Like, I don't care, dude. Like, in 15 years, maybe they will sell the team. Do you want to be generational owners? You have no idea.
Yeah.
Are we frustrated? Yes, but at some point, I want to get back to talking about baseball.
Well, and that was really why I, ended up tweeting what I did on Thursday and just expressing that sentiment, because I was watching video of Kyle Tucker, and I was like, I have literally spent half the day reading about the luxury tax.
I mean, that's a great
These
point.
things, and I'm like, you know what? stop. I care about it deeply. You guys know, like, I'm a season ticket holder. Of course it pisses me off if they're not, if I'm paying a premium price and they're giving me a less than premium product, right? And we're breaking even and all biblical losses while they raise our prices and stuff like that. And it's my choice, right? Like, I know it's your choice. But at the same time, of course I care deeply. But I was like, man, like, you're looking at Kyle Tucker, top 5 player in the league, or top 10, whatever you want to, you know. And I'm like sitting here thinking about how close they are to the luxury tax. It was a pullback moment where I was like, all right, hold on. Like, let's focus on the baseball. Let's try to enjoy this. Of course I care. You know, I'm in a part of the conversation, but
it's a balance. It's a balance. You can be upset because it does matter. Ownership, payroll, of course it matters. And then you can also balance yourself on, what are we missing here? Because you're right. I saw Kyle Tucker put on Cubs uniform for the first time today, or Cubs uniform for the first time today. He looks good in it. But you're right, it was not even in my mind. I was not even thinking about that. I saw Nico Hoerner's 80 ground balls. He shaved his head, by the way. Goodbye, long hair. The long hair of him and Swanson, no longer there. We're talking about money and deferrals and modern day timing. I got my own tax problems to deal with. Okay, I don't need to be doing this during my hobby time, you know?
So, in addition to that, I will say on that note, given that they are imposing this budget and operating the way they are, I appreciated at least that the green light was given. Chet was like, this is what I want to do, this is worth it, this is what I want to do, and they said yes. Now, I don't have a problem with them not going to that level. I think I was pretty loudly banging the drum for Bregman. I liked the idea a lot. I liked the way it lifted this floor. But I think that level of commitment, I just don't think he's that guy. 31-year-old, trending downward, really good player again. Like, I really wanted him. I was very disappointed that they didn't. But if $30 million with all the deferrals and stuff like that, like, that would have created problems for them, no question. And that's not, even considering the potential that, how he ages and if he doesn't opt out and things like that. And I just don't think he's that player worth creating this payroll and roster situation for once it gets to the level, even with the deferrals. I understand it, but 40 million a year, it's like, that's not the player for them. We've talked about a lot of players over the last few off seasons that I believe would represent, and Kyle Tucker will be one of them. Like, back up the truck, whatever it does to your payroll, etc., do it. It's the right thing to do. I think there was a point on Bregman, and the Cubs made a really solid offer. I don't like being the participation trophy winner, as the Cubs have been several times this offseason, but if they're operating in the real world and this is their budget, this is how they're going to do their finances, we have to as well, and that means that there's a limit on what is a good idea or not. And I think this at that level, to beat Boston, not just match them, but to beat them, to get them to come here, not a good idea.
You saw, though, they are competitive, the range that they can spend too. So if they're in June, July, and they're looking like true cut division contenders, they have maybe 25, 30 million to work with. So that is one encouraging aspect. Yes, they missed out on.
Well,
yeah, hold on.
So, go ahead.
Yes, they missed out on
a long episode.
I know. Yes, they missed out on them, and maybe this decreases their chances of getting to a position where they will then spend that money.
That's what I was
It's
going to say.
But if you want to look at this through rosy glasses, if that's even the term, I don't even know. But if you do want to be optimistic, that is a little bit of a window into their thinking process. Should they be competitive, which Fangraphs does not think they are, but Bakota thinks they're a 90-win team, maybe they will go out and make those big splashy moves, and not just one, but perhaps two, because they have that flexibility now.
Yeah, and look, like I said, I feel pretty good about where the roster is. I think overall,
Define pretty good. Give me in your mind, like, where you put the Cubs with West right now. let's rewind the tape. Let's say you're looking at your future self last October to right now. And you say, yeah, I feel pretty good with the mid-80s team.
Well,
you want to slap yourself in the
that's sort of why I say pretty good. I mean, I feel like looking at the NL Central and the way things have gone, I think they have the group, and I'm excited about their young guys. Overall, like, is the offseason where I wanted it at this present moment? No. The Kyle Tucker trade is a huge swing, great swing by Jed Blair, you know, an amazing move. But as you and I talked about it before, you know, at this point, they haven't even really fully allocated the money they got back from Cody Bellinger. And we talked before, even prior to the Bregman decision and stuff like that, like, I think there's a real argument to be made, like, how they allocated this money. You know, they signed some old, like, oft-injured guys to fill some of these positions. At present, and we'll talk about this later in the show, you don't have any cushion for Matt Shaw at third base. And if he doesn't succeed or gets hurt, or you want to manage his playing time on a more careful, you have basically no good cushion.
And we'll talk about that cushion.
You didn't add a top of the rotation guy, and I do want to talk about a piece that came on Bleacher Nation as well from our friend Mike Sram, because I think it kind of illustrates these things. We're gonna have our first ad break here, but plenty more to talk about, and we're not done kind of on the Bregman Jet stuff. So when we come back in a second, we'll keep talking about that. Plenty to talk about here today. So let's hit our first ad break, and we'll be back in a second.
Okay, cornbread, hemp, CBD. Looking for a healthier way to relieve aches and pains while getting a better night's sleep? Try Cornbread Hemp's USDA organic CBD gummies. Cornbread offers the first USDA organic CBD gummy in the USA. Their CBD gummies are the highest quality full spectrum gummies on the market. If you want to give cornbread a try, they're offering CHGO listeners 30% off their first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for 30% off your first order. This is the good life.
All right, Brendan. Let's keep talking. Let's finish our thoughts there, and we can kind of move on. I think the one thing, you know, as you were talking, yes, I want them to have money to use in season. I want them to be exploring at the trade deadline how to get better, et cetera, et cetera. But as you pointed out, the easiest response to that is like, well, if you find yourself in July not in a position to make those trades because you've performed poorly or not well enough to justify it, then isn't it going to be very easy to say, gee, wish they had spent that money to make the team better and come out of the gate and put themselves in that
They'll be judged on that.
double-edged sword. Yeah.
They'll be judged on that.
Yeah.
The one other takeaway, too, before you go on here, which I can't wrap my head around, currently, if you look at MLB COTS, they're projected in for $210 million right now. So 2023, they finished the year with $230 million. Last year was $240. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the statements we heard today and the reports we heard that they're currently at budget now.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to understand is, are they around 210 to 215 now? Then the only reason they would go above that 210, 215 is if they are competitive, because that's the case. But it does represent the payroll slash.
And a lot of people warned and worried about it. Yeah.
So that is one where I'm trying to understand if that is the correct interpretation. Are they actually slashing payroll while simultaneously trading for Kyle Tucker in Jed Warrior's final year?
Well, and that's what this conversation all stems from. Like, maybe it didn't lay out clearly, but like when I was giving my three feelings and talking about all that stuff, that's nothing to do with Alex Bregman. It has to do with the information that we learned on Thursday and how they're kind of operating. Like that's the issue. It's not missing on Bregman or not going 40 million or whatever on Bregman. It's that potentially their budget is $20 to $30 million less. Again,
which equates whose contract? Equates Cody Bellinger's contract.
Yeah, so it's like, why is team of this market and this size
Slashing.
cutting payroll and setting a payroll that is lower than the previous 2 years. And 2 years ago, you'd argue, like, was certainly not as serious of an effort to win as this one should be. And you traded for Kyle Tucker and your president's last year, etc. So that
They
was
went over the luxury tax last year.
right.
This
So
year.
that's where that all stems from. Like, they made a solid effort on Brett, but they made a good offer. I don't have a problem with them not meeting Boston. That's not what this all stems from. When I talk about Tom or Crane Kenny or all this other stuff, it's like because you're potentially slashing the budget, like that's where that's stemming from. That's the issue. The other thing that does concern me from the commentary was the public statement, and things can change, right? All of these philosophies can change. The organizational philosophy can change. The money can change. Everything can change. The organizational avoidance of deferred money was a bit of a, like, should I be alarmed about that kind of comment? Now, I'm not a financial expert, I'm not a tax expert, any of this stuff. So if it's a sound decision or one they prefer for certain money reasons, whatever, right? That's not what I'm talking about. What concerns me about that preemptively is if that is where the league is going to go, and the CBA is maybe going to deal with all this, it might mess everything up, you never know. But if that's how these big players are getting signed, and that's what's going into the structure of these contracts that ultimately are getting pen to paper, getting the player to sign with your team, outwardly saying, like, as an organization, we just don't believe in that, it represents one of those, similar to when we talked about the reluctance to do these super long-term deals. And again, I understand the logic. I totally understand where they're coming from in those beliefs. But sometimes, as we've discussed, if that's where the market is, you have to meet the market. The choice is to do what is necessary to get the player or not get the player. You don't often get to have your cake and eat it too. They have been able to do that in certain deals. They get the player they want on a shorter deal, opt-outs, whatever. But if these players are signing deals because these teams are going with this extra money that's deferred, to say you're not going to do that, it's like, okay, well then when you're ponying up for Kyle Tucker, you better hope the Yankees don't defer $200 million stealing from you. Well, that's where the league is going, Brendan. On face value, it's like, okay, I mean, I would prefer that not be your philosophy.
We don't know the timeline of that squeeze. The TV deal hopefully is resolved by the end of the year. The new CBA, the ideas being exchanged will be clear at the end of the year. Is this going to be a long-term squeeze where they can't defer money now, next year, the following year, the year after that? Then, of course, but I'm not going to work myself up over deferrals.
I mean, I'm not, but
that.
Just of the information we got, that was one of the things that jumped out to me. Is like, okay, but like if that's what it's taking to get these top guys, like,
well, it's for the player. I mean, of course, it's mutually beneficial for the player and the team. For the player, you get your $30 million annual average present day value, right? So the way to look at that is $30 million for Bregman versus $28.5 for the Cubs. So yeah, it's $40 million per year on paper, but it's really $30 million. You still beat the Cubs. From the Red Sox perspective, okay, you defer that money, you make more money over interest, over time. It may not be as liquid, the shortcoming. So you defer that money, get more cash, and pay that way. The Cubs did that with John Lester, your boy John Lester. Cubs did that with Jason Abel. That was one way they were able to get those guys, defer the money in the long term, and they're still paying those contracts today. A little bit of those contracts today. The way, if I were to guess why they're not willing to do that now, it would be because projected revenue right now on February 14, 2025 for the Cubs, without certainty for their TV situation, is uncomfortable for them. So that's what, I
get it. Things can change. It all just comes to, I think, at a certain point, like, even speaking of getting into, the whatever of it, but it just, at some point it would be nice to not just constantly have all of these conversations about.
Of course, if they offered Bregman $31 million, he would have signed with the Cubs too. That's if it were 4 years, $130 million, he'd be in Mesa right now. Deferral or no deferral?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So anyway, that's I think what we have to say about that. It's similar to stuff we've said in the past. I wish they spent to the moon. I wish they were number one. I wish they were always innovating on these contracts and stuff. And I wish Jed could beat the Brewers with an extra $75 to $100 million. I wish all of these things. As we go forward, especially as it relates to ownership, payroll, all these other things, like, to me, the proof is going to be in, if you're competitive at the deadline, you better spend that money, and you better do what you need to do to fix whatever holes show up and cement yourself as a team that's going to win the division, go to the playoffs, etc. And you better pony up for Kyle Tucker. Like, that's where the kind of like put your money where your mouth is kind of thing. Fine, if you're setting these budgets and the luxury tax and all this other stuff, but you traded for this big star, you've been talking about getting a big star, all this other stuff, you better do what it takes to keep him. Unless, if somebody goes insane, there's nothing you can do about that. But I don't want to hear, this same, like, Bregman style conversation when we're talking about Kyle Tucker next offseason.
I feel that because they did offer that 20.5, Tucker was not closed off for those discussions in the future, which, again, you want to be optimistic about this. That is one reason to be optimistic. They could have had Bregman on the books, despite the opt-outs, but on the books with negotiating for a contract extension in September for Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
And that was not an hindrance for Jed to even propose it off the Bregman scale.
Yeah, I mean, they got a green light for a big contract, and so hopefully that means that they will have.
There's more green lights in the future.
If it's Jed's contract to be offering, we'll see about that. All right, so now it goes to where do we go from here? And there was a really good piece over with our friends at Bleacher Nation. Michael Scrammy, one of our longest running guests, even back when it was just Brendan and I, wrote a good piece titled "The Cubs are one piece short, and I think they kind of know it." And I thought it was just a really thought-provoking article. And the basic premise is the Cubs were on record, right, as making big offers that in some cases are out of their comfort zone very clearly, on a top reliever, Tanner Scott, on a top position player in Alex Bregman, and multiple starting pitchers. Yogi Sasaki, the trade for Jesus Luzardo that was very heavily rumored, and some of these other rumors, you never know like what they were actually in on, et cetera, et cetera. There's clearly been a lot of smoke in these three areas. Now, Brennan, of all of those things, they did not get a top-level position player outside of Kyle Tucker. I'm saying they were still pursuing that after Kyle Tucker. They did not get a front-line starting pitcher, and they did not get an absolute, lockdown, top-of-the-class reliever. So I just thought it was very interesting. Like, they were aggressively pursuing these things. The Tanner Scott offer is not something we have seen from this front office in a long time. And in terms of like that level of money and years and commitment to a free agent reliever like that. And so it is interesting because now we find ourselves here, and they've made adjustments to all of those areas of the team, but not at that level. And so I just thought it was a very interesting kind of premise from Michael that they were trying to upgrade these areas in a significant way, and they did not. They upgraded all of them in smaller ways, but not in the way that they were pretty aggressively and ready to be on the books, to commit to.
Yeah, the hope is those opportunities present themselves in June, in July. And the projections map out where the Cubs think they are, where you and I think they are as well. Fangraphs has them as an 84 to 85 win team. Dakota has them as a 90 to 91 win team. The truth probably is somewhere in the middle, and that truth is confounded by an error of about 14 wins. So they're in what I would describe as no man's land, where you have a coin flip at making the playoffs. Now, if you want to be a very optimistic person, well, great. You know, a coin flip's awesome. You know, if you want to be very pessimistic, then you can say, okay, well, I wish we were only one or two players away from being a 100-win team. I wish we were not an injury away of our team being derailed. And the way for that to happen is you're a 94, 95-win team on paper. You're in the tier that we see in the Braves and Dodgers. But that's not possible as well. The Cubs know where they're at. We know where they're at. The way to get to the point of our aspirations is guys like Shaw do well. Matthew Boyd yields dividends. Kyle Hendricks. I saw him in the Floridians today. I know Floridians. I miss you, Kyle. Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown, the young folks, they produce value, and you're at a point come June, July, where you need value from pre-arbitration guys. That way you clean up where you can spend that money. And we're not spending money at $9 million, $10 million on Presley types per year. I'm looking at guys like Justin Turner or Markdangerfield. I try and shore up the back of the net because, frankly, you don't really need it that much. Or going out and trading Morel for Paredes and shifting that over for Kyle Tucker, yada yada, because you already have Shaw and Bush producing at under $1 million per year. Right? So we know where they're at. The aspirations are still realistically achievable. Just we hope that we can get there in June, July.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I am curious, you know, I would like to see them still bring in someone that can play third base. I think I
can go with Love.
I think you're shortstop.
I can play any position then. Okay, that's so first.
Yeah, Joe Madden. Joe Madden is not.
I can't play the outfield though.
Right.
Or pitch.
Isn't about me.
Go my gloves too small. Yeah.
I would feel not great. I'm totally fine with Matt Shaw, like, getting the runway to earn this job and have it be his job at third base, but I do not feel comfortable with the level of support they have at that position at this moment. Like, John Birdie's fine, like, the guys they have, Workman, etc., like, maybe they can fill in and play good defense, whatever it is, but if Shaw struggles, if Shaw gets hurt, if Craig Counsell in the front office, and Shaw's a hugely important player for this franchise, as you just laid out kind of specifically why. Like, if you're getting a feeling of, like, you know what, we want to sit him against some of these pitchers or some of these matchups. He's really struggling with guys that, you know, throw a certain kind of pitch, and we want, you know, he's in a groove right now. We don't want to break him out of it. You want them to have that flexibility if they need it, or if there's some sort of bad scenario, right? And knock on wood, I got you, you know. But so I am not comfortable with where they're at right now. I think it's putting a lot of pressure on a very important young player in your organization, and if it doesn't go well, you're going to be starting what I would say is not a major league caliber starting third baseman as a result, which would be what, the third season
Ever since you traded KB?
that. Wisdom had some good seasons.
I think that one season that was it.
Yeah. So that's my position. So when we come back from our second half break here, I do want to talk about, there's been, you know, a little bit of a Justin Turner smoke, Markdangerfield smoke, etc. Is that something of interest? Is the money there, I guess, is something we have to ask. But I would like to see them address that, and I will feel a little uncomfortable until they do. But we'll talk about that in a second when we get back from our break here.
Okay, is there any better combination than Hooters and Chicago sports? What makes the original Hooters so special? It's simple. They care about their people, the food they serve, their guests, and their community. Experience like no other, based on years of hard work. Every Tuesday in February through the 25th, your wing cravings can make a difference. Hooters is donating a portion of chicken wing sales to Moldy family schools, helping fund tuition, books, classroom supplies, and more for kids in under-resourced communities. With the support of Chicagoland Scooters family, we've raised over $1 million since 1992. So let's keep it going because kids can't fly without wings. They have hot wings, cold beer, your favorite cheerleaders, the Hooters girls. 9 out of 10 Hooter girls agree that eating Hooters wings while watching the game will help your team win. So cheer on your favorite teams from any of the 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations. Juliet, Lansing, Melrose Park, Oakland, O'Hara, Orlando Park, Schaumburg, Wellspring, wherever you're closest to. You can even order online if you're far away for delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com. Okay, auto show deals are going on now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. That means the latest vehicles you've been looking for are now priced with huge auto show savings, like $11,000 off MSRP on new Chevy models, or check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find a perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you know you'll get a great deal. Go see for yourself. Visit our partner this February at their convenient location right now in the Rush Road in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their auto show sales event going on all month long. Be the star of the show and take $11,000 off MSRP today by shopping Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or RayChevrolet.com. Tax, title, license, and dock fees. Extra on select models. MSRP may not reflect the actual selling price. Combined Ray and Raymond inventory. See the details. Offer expires February 20th.
All right, Brendan. So I want to talk about this, but I will tell you, and I think you might know this, a delicate topic, and I'll tell you why. In my entire life, I would say that I have never heard my mom, Diana, express a level of vitriolic hatred toward a single player more than Justin Turner. And so when Bregman signed in Boston, texted her right away. I was like, hey, that guy Brendan and I have been talking about, not going to be a Cub. And I'm warning you now that there's talk, just talk, that maybe the Cubs pursue your arch enemy, Justin Turner.
What is she called? Justin Turner? Is there like a nickname? You can't say. It has something to do with redhead, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yeah, oh God.
Well, because, he's always had the beard that was, so she would say the guy with the big red beard on the Dodgers.
That's exactly what she would say. Okay.
Yeah, a little more colorful. Context, my mom has lived in LA for a long time, so she is in enemy territory as a Cubs fan. And Justin Turner, obviously, has been somewhat of a bane of our existence. So that would be a tough sell, Brendan. Be a tough sell. Tough sell. So just a sensitive subject over in the Friedman household. But I am into it. Now he hasn't been playing as much.
Do you hate your mom? Do you hate your mom? You're into it?
I need the Cubs to get better.
I mean, is there any loyalty anymore?
He can
No
be our
loyalty
bad
to the
guy,
Friedman family? Huh?
I want the Cubs to win. If the Cubs are winning cures all. My mom will figure out a way to support the team.
40-year-old Justin Turner here to the rescue.
Look, I would, I don't love, how Little League's been playing third base and all that other stuff, but I think, he's been a good hitter in this league, even if last year was, not his best year in Toronto. But they just need somebody more worthy of MLB playing time at that position, or to spell Matt Shaw. Turner could spell Michael Bush at first base too. Like I said before the break, I do not feel comfortable about the third base situation behind Matt Shaw. And I think of the things that, we can talk about, they didn't get a top of the line starter, but they did add some depth, and what we think of that decision and that depth. Same with the bullpen. But I think the one thing that stands out for me as this is an egregious thing they need to address. It's some sort of legitimate depth at third base. They need to have someone on this team that they are comfortable with starting a good chunk of MLB games should that situation arise. And I hope that that's not the case. I'm all for Matt Shaw doing it. I believe in him. I'm very excited about Matt Shaw, but to not have a better contingency than John Birdie or Cowlis or whatever the Gage Workman, that's not going to do it. And I think would easily, if you ask me right now, what's the spot that gets this team into trouble or kind of derails what they hope goes right, I would be like that. Then something necessitates Matt Shaw not playing every day. And again, part of that can just be prioritizing his development for the good of him and the organization. And so if you're pitting those things against each other, that's not where you want to be with a rookie, and a rookie that's so important to this organization. So they don't need to, they never needed to go out and get even Alex Bregman. That wasn't the only solution, of course. But where it is now doesn't work for me.
So,
my tempo.
So last year he signed a contract with Toronto, a 1-year, $13 million contract. At the time he was 39 years old. He got traded mid-season from Toronto. Now what he makes this season, maybe $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, somewhere in that tier. Third base market is not finished yet. Nolan Arenado's being shopped around. So we'll see if he signs beforehand or after. It might take a week or 2 weeks as spring training progresses. But I'm looking at Turner, $2 to $4 million in that range. And I would probably guess it's under $3 million. So then the question is it worth it? Yeah, $3 million is cheap, but that is the price of an Andrew Chafin type reliever. And that would be a price of maybe a 7th plus inning reliever at the trade deadline. He has, as we know, peripherals that age well. We've talked for years now about what makes guys age well, and those numbers are good chase rate, good contact rate, and some power reserve. So Turner has all that, and even Markdangerfield has that as well. Connor has a contact rate well below league average, chase rate well better than league average. Turner has the same thing going on, and they're both 35 plus years old, Turner being 40 years old. So the question is, at what point will age strike them? Because we're entering a territory where we're not talking about a large pool of 40-year-olds. So I can't say, oh yeah, this is a great deal because I don't have a reference point because very few guys get to age 40. That being said, at age 39, we had a WRC plus of 117 in almost 550 plate appearances.
Kind of split neutral. Less slug against righties, but 119 WRC plus against lefties, 116 against righties.
Yeah. And the year before that, Boston, same thing, 115 WRC plus and 630 plate appearances. So he is what he is. Now, third base is not an option. You pointed out Williams played there that much. He's barely played there. I'm talking almost, 11 games in the past 2 years. So that is just not going to be maybe my expectation. They may force him there, even though he's not playing there, but I don't think you sign him to get significant third base innings. If that's the case, then hopefully his defense is fine, but we don't have that as a base. How can I say to you, how can I say to you, Justin Turner can play third base on a daily basis or every other day when he hasn't done that in 2-3 years?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know how I would feel about that. They would have to have some reason that's justifiable to think he can do that.
Yeah, look, I think that's absolutely fair, and I certainly couldn't tell you that I believe he can do it or whatever, but
isn't that the crux of the issue though? If you want third base depth, and your third base depth option is 40 years old and hasn't played defense in 3 years, what are we talking about here?
yeah, I don't know. I guess in my head, if the situation got there, the idea would be that he's a solid enough bat. He can play first, obviously he can DH. If he had to be a corpse at third base for a day, he could. And he's not the, if the situation situation with Shaw necessitated it, you'd have to switch some things around. I don't know if Nico Horner's playing third base in that situation. Well,
I know. It's
You
just,
know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but like, damn. Like, we're gonna move the third base.
This is where they're at.
We're gonna move the best middle infield to third base. We're gonna move Bush, who had a Gold Glove-esque year, Corey and Jet Boyer to third base. I'm just saying, it's not a good. It's not
I don't
an
know.
ideal situation.
Yeah. The reason that I would even go Turner or Kana, it's just like maybe you hope that they can keep up as a solid enough bat to sort of supplement things and be filling in. Now we also heard potentially that they're thinking about trying Alexander Canario at first base to see if they can kind of get the depth there.
Okay.
That's another one where, listen, I get all of it. I do understand. It worked in some of these organizations, but it just feels like so many of these ideas, it's like, okay, you're a little late on this. Like, we're going to teach you first base in 3 weeks. Like, this didn't dawn on anybody when you had nowhere to play him.
I mean, if they sign Turner, it's likely going to be more for first base staff. That's probably what it's going to be. Third base is going to be John Gurley. It's going to be Cage Workman. That's the depth, Corey. Like, you have, as much as we want proven major league talent, the most predictable trait is defense. That is always going to be the case. So here's a quote from Fangraphs that describes Gage Workman's defensive profile, and there's a reason why the Cubs took him in the Rule 5 draft. So this is the actual quote from Fangraphs. Workman has successfully moved up the defensive spectrum as a pro. He is now an above-average shortstop and a 70-grade glove at third. Workman's footwork and actions are incredible for a player his size. At a long torso at 6'4", he has remarkable body control and impact arm. So Fangraphs, to put this into context, when 70 grade is given as a score, what they are meaning to say is that his defensive profile projects to be better than 85% of the league. Actually, more than that, I'm sorry, it's 2 standard deviations. Almost 95% of the league. So this is crazy to have a projection like that from a respectable outlet. Now, is that true? We'll see. But the Cubs are banking on depth in the form of John Burney in a third form of depth option, and a guy who plays quality defense whose bat may be the worst in the league. But at least they have some form of defensive competency.
I suppose, I don't know, man. Just the situation there makes me uneasy. I think
Go trade for Arenado.
I don't think I articulated it well, and that's on me. But I think in thinking of Turner, it at least provides the depth at first base, and then you feel sort of better if the situation with Shaw necessitates readjusting.
He can play third base too.
I do understand that Justin Turner cannot play. I wasn't suggesting he play 120 games at third base. It would lessen the burden if the third base situation needed changing. If you had someone who could hit, spell Michael Bush, DH if you have the at bats available, etc.
Forgive me for not following just Turner's career. When I looked him up on his third base games played, I was surprised. I thought he was still playing a little bit more third base. In fact, he's only played a dozen games in 2 years. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
So that being said, if he can be a corpse at third base, then yeah, he is depth. It's not crazy to suggest. And again, maybe, I don't know the context in Toronto, the context in Boston at the time. I don't know all the context, but maybe.
I guess he can't do it.
Well, you don't know. I mean, third base in Boston, he had Devers there. In Toronto, who knows, right? But maybe he can actually.
He just goes there and Dansby, takes.
Well, that was the idea.
The left side.
That was the idea with Madrigal.
Yeah.
That Madrigal crow hop and take 20 steps to first base. So that worked out fine for Madrigal.
Yeah.
Kind of confused some fans because they thought he was better than Matt Chapman for a few months, but it's okay. You can go trade for Madrigal.
Overall, I just think that, you have to have more of a cushion for the situation that you're potentially putting Matt Shaw in. And again, I say that as a big believer in Matt Shaw and someone who's confident in that. But there's just so much risk.
Well, let me pose a question.
So much extra burden that you put on him to succeed and play so many of those games.
Let me pose a question to you. So let's look at PCA's trajectory last year. So doesn't make the opening day roster, gets called up, a bunch of breaks his rib, has success, gets sent down, comes back up 10 days later, struggles, right? So if we look at PCA's profile in 2024, the argument could have been made that he could have gone through those struggles and played the entire year. Because at the end of the year, then it reversed. The offense success came, and the defense was always there. So the way I think about this, I know people want to be cautious with prospects, you want to break your best prospect. I might be inclined just to say, you know what? You're going to just rough this out. And if there's a 2-3 week stretch, a month stretch, where he's struggling offensively, does it require getting another guy in the 40 man through a trade? I don't know. We've seen how the 40 man is valued. I tend to think too that going through those struggles ends up allowing the player to adjust fast, and that's where I think PCA was able to have an advantage because he went through those struggles and he adjusted fast.
I agree with you. The problem is when those struggles are happening on a team that is trying to compete.
Well, it's over now, dude. Who do you want them to go get? We're talking about 40-year-old Justin Turner to play third.
Listen, I'm not.
You know, like I'm talking
the
about.
Options
You
are the
go make a
options. I'm
trade.
just expressing the concern with the situation.
I know. I mean, like, do you go make a trade in like May and get a guy in the 40 man? If
I think I
Josh
alternatively here, right? Like, not that they would base it on this, and like, again, I can't be more effusive in my belief of in Matt Shaw, right? But let's say it's a disaster of a spring training. Whatever that, then what?
You're thinking negative today, dude.
I remember at one point, I don't remember what interview it was or what it was for, but Theo talking about, kind of thinking of the things that would be the hurdles getting in the way of like punching your ticket to the playoffs and like what can kind of derail this train. And that just stands out as that spot. We talked a ton last week about the pitching depth and how they might address certain guys' innings limits and how, even if it's not the sexiest list of bullpen options and bullpen depth, like it's a lot of guys there, and with the talent they have in their pitching department, they hopefully can squeeze out those 7-8 guys. But it just represents such a potential risk that they're taking.
And they're trying to offset that risk with John Birdie engaged workman. I'm not justifying that. I'm just trying to express how they're thinking about this. You're not going to get another player on this team between now and opening day unless you trade for Arenado and eat that money than John Birdie's projection. You're just not. It's not going to happen. So the likely scenario is we go April, May, and June. And if they struggle,
well, and I think kind of getting back to even the point, from Michael's article over at Bleacher Nation, doesn't this, they were going to pay $30 million for a guy to come in and play third base. Now, I know that potentially the plan is for him to play second base in Boston, but, the Cubs won't have Rafael Devers playing third base. So
that would be nice.
It would be nice. So it does sort of reflect that they were about to pay $30 million for a guy to come and play third base. Like, it seems like they understand exactly what, we're putting out there. So, again, like, no, to be clear, like, I'm not advocating for Justin Turner playing third base for a significant period, if he can do it at all. But adding that infield depth and at least giving some insurance to Michael Busch over at first base, or just providing more flexibility of guys who can play somewhere in the infield and hit to some degree, lessens this. And it just feels like a very but I do agree with you. Like, of course PCA benefited from the sort of roller coaster of it, like having those ups and downs and being given that leash by your manager and the organization to work through it, identify what you're working on, and have that time at the major league level is invaluable. But when you're trying to time that with also winning, and as we laid out, margins in the division and for your win projected are pretty thin. Like, do you have time for that? That's question becomes is like, sure, let Matt Shaw work through stuff. Like he's got to grow and develop as a player. But if you're in a dogfight with the Milwaukee Brewers for the division, like how much can you handle that? And then if the solution isn't, well, hey, Shaw's struggling, we got to focus on winning the division. Get John Birdie in there. It's like,
well, that's what's going to happen.
Okay, guys, sure.
That's what's going to happen, Corey. He's on the roster. It's going to be him or Gage Workman. I tend to believe within the next week, 2 weeks, Turner's going to be on the team. That's what I believe. I believe will be him over Markkanen for the defensive flexibility that Turner does offer compared to Kana. First base, like you mentioned, third base, if you need a severe depth option, maybe he's better than what we're lending folks to believe, but he does have the defensive competency, if you want to call it that Kana does not offer. And if that's the case, you will enter the year with options including Birdie, Workman, Shaw, Turner, and Bush for your corners. Bruhan, if you want to buy into that, which is kind of a weird one, but he can be one of your options.
I do not. Yeah.
Not many people do. And then maybe Canario surprises himself, dude. He becomes a first baseman. But those are your 5 guys who I just listed off. Now, I will say, if you're expecting a trade around the corner during June, July, don't expect it. The current free agents next year for third baseman are Kike Hernandez, likely not going to be traded from the Dodgers. Yoan Moncada from the Angels. If he has a surprise year, maybe the Angels are out of contention and they trade Moncada, but do you think he's going to be good? Well, probably not, or the Cubs would have maybe signed him. Donovan Solano, who I mentioned, he's 38 years old, $3.5 million. Maybe he's available. Eugenio Suarez. Heat up the D-backs. They're likely to be competitive. And that's basically it, dude. So you have Moncada, Solano, and that's essentially it for presumed non-competitive teams. So if you want to trade for a third baseman, you're going to have to find a trade partner with a third baseman that's signed through 2026. And I don't know if those exist.
Yeah, tricky. It's going to be Matt Shaw. It's just a question of the process to get him there and how it affects him and the overall team, and so that's where sort of my trepidation comes in. And I it's also like, speaking of things we've spent.
Yeah, baby.
Projected for 4 award. If that happens, you're mid to upper 80 win team.
Oh no.
2024. So we better not have that happen.
Yeah.
And if it does happen, then we need elevated ceilings of PCA and around the roster. And the concern that I also share, which I don't know if you can account for without spending money, is the middle infield surgery. We have Dansby Swanson coming back from core surgery. We have Nico Horner coming back from torn flexor surgery. So what are the likelihoods they can't play as much as they did over the past couple of years? I'm not sure. I hurt my back waking up, getting out of bed. For Dansby Swanson to have a core surgery, I don't know what that does for him.
That's what it's. I was really into the Bregman idea. I'm okay with them leveling off, or having kind of a this is our breaking point type thing. But I think wherever they can continue to add depth, be it the rotation, the bullpen, or on the position side, like I think they can use it. And I don't think that these will be dollars at this point if they're operating this way. Like I don't think that they'll regret trying to strengthen some of these areas.
It's weird. The Nick Pavetta signing, 4 years, $55 million. I thought for sure more than that.
You think you owe attached to him?
I know he did. It's just like weird. I didn't think it was gonna be that low. I thought it would be low, not that low.
Well, I mean, you look at the market, some of these contracts that guys took, it wasn't really that surprising.
But also for the Padres, they're trying to shut payroll.
Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with anybody. So,
I mean, it kind of makes me think that Dylan Cease's coming to the Cubs. No, I'm not going to go there. Maybe we'll see. We'll see.
It does, make you realize we got like a little over a month before the Cubs are playing real baseball against the Los Angeles Dodgers in Japan. And we gotta take a look at the 2025 Chicago Cubs. We're getting to the point. We may not be there totally now, but getting point where like people are going to be off the board, like they're going to be pressing forward with the group that they have, and I'm looking forward to it. I wish this off season were more substantial. I think there were ways to do that, and I wish, like you said, we were sitting here with a solidly like mid-90s projection or something like that we all felt like super confident, like this team is winning this division unless utter catastrophe. But they didn't get there, but they did make the team better. Jed's taken some big swings, and if all the budget stuff is true, and the thresholds are where they are, like I think for a couple of years now we haven't really known how to like exactly evaluate all this. Like especially listening to him on Thursday, it seems pretty clear. Like we have to evaluate Jed with the knowledge that he is not just like being given this like big bank of money to work with. He has very clearly been limited in certain things, and that's not necessarily a defense of him. It can also be a critique.
I'm holding out.
He's allocated the money, but it's just interesting.
What I'm doing this year is just waiting for the season to end before I give judgment for Jed. There's been points in time in the past 2 years where I text you, like, I'm done with this front office, right? But the infrastructure developmentally has been yielding fruits. Some of the moves they made have yielded fruits, and I think right now with the farm the way it is, with the possibilities of range of outcomes being so wide, I'm telling myself reserve judgment till the end of the year. And once October hits, I think it will again be pretty clear what the direction is, whether it be extending him or moving on. But I'm not going to try to put myself in the, is he going to stay? Is he going to leave? Is it going to be extended until we see this play out?
Yeah, and play out it shall. So I think that's what we have for you. We'll see if there's signings as always. If there's an emergency show we need to do. I think most of those guys are off the board, though. I don't think we're doing an emergency show for Justin Turner or Mark Conha, but I'll leave that to Cody if he wants to do an emergency show for those guys. But if we do, CHGO Sports YouTube will be live as quickly as we can. I wanted to do a show for Bregman, man. I was ready. I would have been pumped about that. Such is life.
You go straight for him, Boston struggles.
Contract.
Yeah, Boston was just, what?
Yeah.
I'm going to pay that $30 million after all.
Yeah. Brendan and I will talk to you again next week. As always, we appreciate the support. And we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thank you, and as always, go Cubs.
Whatever you do it for less. Harbor Freight.
Oh, that's a boy. And it looks like he's gonna like Westerns. But what if Westerns aren't hot when he grows up?
He was born to love a Western, that's what everybody said. And what gave him that impression was his fleshy cowboy head. Fleshy cowboy head. Fleshy cowboy head.
HGO Cubs podcast, the Bregman fallout. What happens next? Where do they pivot? Was it a blessing? And the questionable strategy from the top on down. We'll have you seeing stars like PCA's hair next. Chicago. What do you say? It's a CHGO Cubs podcast. It is Thursday, the 13th. The snow has settled, and so has Bregman Watch 2025. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo, and Sean Anderson are the ones and twos for us. See, the live YouTube chat is up and burning today because everybody's got an opinion about this Alex Bregman signing with the Boston Red Sox. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page. Best way to enjoy what we do is to get in that chat and be part of the show with us.
Send a super chat, we'll definitely read it.
And thumbs up. You know,
Thumbs.
hit the thumbs up on the way. And I see 9 of you have done it already.
Please like the video. I know a lot of people, some people might be a little angry. I see Godfather's comments like, don't hit the down, like don't thumbs down us because of
Right.
maybe you're upset about this result. At least hit the thumbs up for us.
And as Shane points out, sickos unite.
So it goes,
Here we are.
of
Here we
course
are.
get a thumbs down the moment I say that.
And of course, yeah, no, not.
Thank you guys. Never change.
Hey, the news came on the 13th, so that's lucky.
Well, at least it wasn't a Friday, Luke.
That's right. Here's the deal. Bregman, 3 for 120. There's deferrals and an opt-out after each season in Boston. So we'll break it all down with the deferrals and stuff. But in general, it's a $40 million a year
For 1 year.
for 1 year.
Because he could opt out
He
next
could-
year.
he could opt
or
out.
after the season.
And I know there's a signing bonus, and I know there's deferrals, and if you're talking about it at just $40 million a year for Alex Bregman, if this year the Cubs were going to pay Alex Bregman $40 million, I'm out. So I'm glad their offer wasn't. The Cubs had the worst offer of the three, right? The Tigers go 3 for 120 with the opt-outs. The Tigers then went six. The Red Sox rather. The Tigers went 6 years, $171.5 million. So their AAV is the same as the Cubs offer, depending on who you hear it from. Passon is still sticking with 4 for 120. Bruce Levine says actually it was 4 for 115. Either way, the Cubs offer to Alex Bregman was less in AAV, and it was less in years than the Tigers deal. So the only thing they were offering was the Cubs. We kind of said all along, Cody, over the last couple of weeks, as this started to get more and more somewhat realistic, because I thought it was a total pipe dream back in the day.
We all, or me and you both did.
Right,
a
but
month and a half ago.
what you pointed out at the very beginning, that the longer it goes, the more likely it is he's going to have to take one of these shorter deals. He did have to take one. Now, I never expected a team to go, yeah, we'll give you $40 million. Deferred or not, we'll give you $40 million. We'll get into the Cubs' philosophy on that in a second, but I think that they're fairly lucky. We got a super chat. Not spending belly money, biblical profits. See, I knew that was coming too.
Yeah. We're breaking even here in 2025.
So they tried to spend some of that money, but they offered the lowest of the three teams left. But I don't hate it because the player wasn't worth it in my eyes.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. While I am mostly with you, but I've given Alex Bregman $40 million to play for the Cubs in 2025. Do I think he's worth that? No. How many times we sit here and we talk about other players on other teams who are overpaid? But you know what they do? Those players are more likely than not increasing that team's floor because they probably have a slew of young players who are perhaps obviously cheap, but quote unquote the core of that team that again those teams needed a guy who could potentially put them over the top. So, do I think that Alex Bregman would make the Cubs better next season?
Yes.
Yes. Do I think that Alex Bregman's worth $40 million for 1 year? No. But, as again, playing devil's advocate, it's not my money. That said, we all know that the the first-year luxury tax is basically a cap for the Cubs, and $40 million they couldn't do it. I guess they could have deferred money, but like I said, or like you said, we're going to talk about that philosophy. I guess they don't want to do deferrals. I don't know who I should blame on that. I guess I should blame Tom on that because that's basically what Jed Hoyer said, that they talked to Tom and Laura and all these things about deferrals. So, in general, I can't blame Jed Hoyer for not getting this done because I like the deal that the Cubs offered. Not only was it 4 for 120 or 4 for 115, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He was going to be here for 2 years if he had chosen the Cubs because there wasn't an opt-out until after 2026, which made so much sense for the Cubs with all the money coming off the books. But, you know, he took the more money for 1 year, and I don't necessarily blame him. That's what all the players normally do. My thing here is that two things are true. He's not worth $40 million, but also, like, the team isn't better without him. Sure, we're going to see Matt Shaw. Sure, like, projections love him, or at least think he could be a valuable player. He'll be better than what the Cubs put at third base last year. So perhaps the team will still be good, but you would have increased the floor with Alex Bregman on the team. So that's why I'm saying that am I playing devil's advocate or am I just speaking facts? For 1 year, would I have paid Alex Bregman $40 million? If I'm the owner of the team, Luke, if I am operating the team myself, I would have paid him because if you have Kyle Tucker guaranteed for 1 year, fine. Let's do whatever we can. But the way this team is operating, this ownership group is operating, forcing Jed to use the first-year luxury tax as a cap. But for some reason, when we get to the end of July, that's if we're in it, they'll go over it, they'll blow past it. Then it's incredibly annoying. It's incredibly annoying. But Jed Hoyer has to do what Jed Hoyer has to do and what he's allowed to do. So I'm not blaming Jed. I'm just frustrated with how ownership has basically operated for the last 5-6 years. And I gave them a pass during the beginning of this rebuild. We have a 2-year window here based off the contracts that are on the team. It's like, why are we not? I'm not necessarily saying pushing all our chips in. I'm just saying, why aren't we trying to go the extra mile, like Godfather said in the chat? Why are we not doing that? I'm not mad that they didn't get Alex Bregman. I'm frustrated that they're not doing whatever it takes to make sure this team will absolutely be a playoff team in 2025. And I'm still optimistic about this team going into 2025. I still feel optimistic about them winning the division. But if you added Bregman, you certainly make yourselves more of a lock to do so. Instead, now we have to ride the roller coaster of Matt Shaw playing third base next year, and we'll see what happens. It could go great. It could go bad. I don't know which one to expect. I'm expecting a little bit of both. I'm expecting a roller coaster, all right?
It sounds like it was really a two-team battle for Alex Bregman. The Cubs were never going to make an offer like the Tigers did, 6 for 171, right? And I wouldn't want them to. I wouldn't want 6 years potentially of Alex Bregman getting stuck in your roster. So I'm okay with that part. I don't disagree with what you're saying. Both things are true. You can be angry that the Cubs aren't willing to just blow by the luxury tax and make this team an unquestionable super favorite to win the division and go to the postseason. Now, they still may be a favorite, but they're not like over the top because there's questions, and this would have raised their floor. But you also, at some point, have to live in Jed Hoyer's world, which is reality, right? And so while you and I are sitting here thinking, man, why doesn't management at CHGO put us in a loft over the top of Sloan Park for the next month, watching every game in the sun, you know, doing all this? We also live in a reality. There are budgets from the top on down. So I think the bigger thing that I'm more concerned about this, because again, I think Bregman has flaws. You're a guy that's the wrong side of 30, whose numbers came down last year and was playing in a ballpark where left field has a short porch. That increased his numbers, right? He didn't have to deal with the wind blowing in at Wrigley Field. Also boosts his numbers a little bit. He and sometimes trash cans being banged while he was trying to hit the ball also elevated his numbers a little bit. So while I still like the player, and he won a Gold Glove there last year,
Yeah.
there are signs that things aren't going to be great.
Right.
So for me, 40 million, or even Buster Olney now saying like was deferrals, it's really a $90 million deal at the moment. But now's when you factor in what was being said, and Paul Sullivan had a quote about it, and then Bruce Levine also quoted Jed Hoyer about it. Sully basically saying in a quote from Jed Hoyer that we're really not into deferrals, haven't been into deferrals. And then Bruce, it's ultimately, I feel like we made a fair offer. This is from Sully's Twitter account. Most of the time in free agency, the player goes to the highest bid, which they did not have. Philosophically, deferrals are something we've avoided. Now, Bruce took it one step further and said the Cubs are not going to be doing it moving forward. Tom Ricketts doesn't like the dead money deal. They're still paying money to Lester. They're still paying money to Hayward.
Which I did not realize, by the way.
Okay, so he doesn't like the deferral thing. Now, the thing that I question about this, and we'll get to Gary Ross's super chat in a second, is number one, it seems to me that deferrals are helping the team. It's team friendly for a deferral, is it not? I don't see what the negative to it for. I know he doesn't want the dead money, but this is clearly the way big money contracts, they've always done it, but now more and more of it's happening. And you're starting to hear players being willing to take it because they know how tight it is, and the TV deals aren't the same, so they're doing it to help the team so they can build a better team. So it's curious to me why they don't want to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because that seems like it's part of the game at this point.
Sure.
Gary had a super chat for us. $9.99 throwing around. The Cubs aren't throwing around the big bucks, but Gary is today. Per presser today, the first cap is not their budget. Yeah, because I can't see it. Can you or make it bigger?
I can't really make it bigger because
Hey, just did.
well, yeah, I guess it'll be the size of the screen. Per presser today, the first cap is not their budget, and it's much lower. Sounds like the budget is around $215 million, as Jed said. He was going over budget to sign Bregman. What are we doing here?
Well, that's we're going to get to that in the next block here. Is that they're basically saying, listen, that money was for Bregman only.
Yeah.
We're not going to be a big spender on somebody else.
Does that mean that Justin Turner is not an option now?
I don't know that he'd be the big spend, so I think we can still discuss it. But it basically sounds like,
well, they're not going to pay Justin Turner $30 million, but they're well under that first-year luxury tax.
it's also irrelevant anyways in that, at least via free agency, if you were looking at it, Bregman was the biggest player left on the market.
Yeah.
So I guess you're not going to add up a bunch of other pieces. They talk about doing some smaller things. I sort of have a problem here with this philosophy of not doing deferrals.
I think you are resonating with a lot of people, because I'm with you. Like, the reason the Red Sox were able to do it was because of the deferrals, right? So in my head, they wanted that comp pick back for Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta signed with the Padres last night, 4 years, $55 million. We'll talk about that and maybe the Cubs and Padres trade stuff towards the end of the show, probably, right? And I believe that means that the Red Sox got a comp pick back because you have the qualifying offer attached to it, right? So, as we've talked about, Bregman, you had to give away 2 comp picks to sign. If you sign Bregman, you have to give those to the Astros, right? So one of those are going to go to the Astros, and I'm sure based off how the Red Sox have been operating since the moment they let Mookie Betts walk, or I guess trade him, right? That, to me, I feel like they were waiting to up the offer. They're waiting for Pivetta to sign somewhere. Tinfoil hat theory, right? But the whole, like, the fact that they offered the $40 million, that came out of nowhere. And that's why I believe this. So I think the deferrals are a big part. I do think that the comp picks have some part to do with that. I can't be mad at Jed Hoyer about how this went down. I can't.
I would agree that this one is not Jed Hoyer's fault, and in hindsight, when it's all said and done, it may turn out to be a blessing that this deal didn't get done. Because to me, 28.5's pretty strong offer to Alex Bregman moving forward when your best prospect also plays third base. We're just touching the surface of this stuff with the Alex Bregman signing. We're going to signing with the Red Sox. We're going to talk about more of it, what it means, where they pivot to next, how do they pivot, and all of that coming up in a second. But first, a word from our sponsors. Hooter.
Fargo cleans everyday messes, and it won't clean out your piggy bank. Discover the thrill of flying, knowing every detail is perfected.
Hooters is an experience like no other, based on years of hard work. Great place to watch games, from the original wings, I also love the honey barbecue, to the chicken tenders, delicious, to the mahi fish tacos, trust me, legit. Every Tuesday in February right now through the 25th, your wing cravings can make a difference. Hooters is donating a portion of chicken wing sales to Holy Family Schools, helping fund tuition, books, classroom supplies, and more for kids in under-resourced communities. With the support of our Chicagoland Hooters family, they have raised over $1 million since 1992. So let's keep it going, because kids can't fly without wings. So cheer on your favorite teams from any of their 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations. They have them in O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, Downers Grove, downtown, you name it. You can even order online for pickup and delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com.
I love me some Hooters. You know what else I love? Lucy.
Oh yeah.
Love Lucy. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy breakers are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. All right? Level up with your nicotine routine with Lucy. I think what's awesome about Lucy is that it can be just delivered straight to your door. Right? I'm not big on smoking, haven't been. My entire family has. My entire life I somehow did not. Right?
Good.
Which is good. But there's things like Lucy that help and are better for you in the sort of
Kick when you go to the gym, maybe.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps on the drive, you know. Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/CHGO. Use promo code CHGO2025 and get 20% off this order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co. Use code CHGO2025 to get 20% off. And here comes the fine print, right? Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. So,
Alex Bregman, 3s for 120. Okay, we will pivot to what's next. But I mean, I think the key is what Jed Hoyer had to say this morning. This is via Twitter page of Marquee. Their cameras were there. And by the way, the 360 show they do is really good in the afternoon. It's a good recap of what's going on with the Cubs. And this is what Jed Hoyer had to say after missing out and having the third best offer to Alex Bregman.
I think we're always looking. I think that, like I said, I think we're, the things we're going to do now are going to be, quite small things financially. So I think that we'll always look. But, I think that right now, the big blocks, so to speak, and the medium blocks are sort of on this team. And I think that we'll, we'll make, we have, be able to make moves in the season, and we'll be able to be opportunistic as things come up, with, last year we had, with Tyson Miller or Lopez or things like that. But, no, my expectation is that the group we have now is really close to what we're going to go forward with.
All right, they are going to let Matt Shaw cook at third, is what I get there. But the one that I heard in the middle is what you really need to focus on when you're talking about where they pivot. Because I know a lot of people think the money's going directly into Ricketts' pocket. It won't be spent at like what Gary was saying in the Super Chat. Thanks for the Super Chat, by the way, Gary. That their team cap is actually dropping down below, and they're not going to go near it. They don't want to go near it, even though previously they've said if they're close and they're in it, they feel like they've got a contender, they'll blow past it. The key is he's talking about in season. To me, that means you can forget any dreams of who we were trying to think of. Okay, where do they go at? Justin Turner may be an option. We'll talk about him in a second. The other name that keeps popping up and has been all spring was the Cardinals are desperate to dump Nolan Arenado. Could he do the same things for you that Alex Bregman might have done, in that he would spell and give you a little time with Matt Shaw? Shaw could ease into the majors a little bit more, and he could play third base. There's been rumors that he's been willing to play first base, so you wouldn't have to get a backup at first if you could get him to play first and third, and kind of ease Shaw in. But what I hear Jed Hoyer say, the big chips are off there, then I'm saying to myself, well, now wait a minute. When you look at what Arenado has left, which is what, three years, $64 million, the Cardinals already have said no back last month in January to taking on $20 million of that, right, to try and help teams. So I thought to myself, wait a minute, what if it was $44 million for 3 years? You're talking about an AAV of 14 and a half, 15 million. Is that a little more attractive to the Cubs, in that you wouldn't have to give up as much as a prospect? They're eating a little money. He can help ease into it. He could have a bounce back season. Well, the answer is no, because it sounds to me like Jed Hoyer saying, we're not adding 14.5 million right now before the season. That would be a medium or big block. But it does open up the fact for the money is in the bank right now, and you still have the pieces or the collateral to go make a Bregman type move, or bigger, or whatever, maybe in a different scenario during the season. I don't hate this. I hate the overall idea that I hate the optics and the overall plan from the organization that they aren't willing to be, the Dodgers, the Mets, and if they say that that's it, that's it. So the rules we're living in are, this is what they're willing to spend. Living by those rules. So the world that Jed Hoyer is living in right now, I'm okay with not paying Bregman 28.5. I'm also okay with holding off on the trade market and seeing what I actually need right now, right? So I'm okay with, instead of pivoting right away to a deal like Arenado or something like that, I'm willing to say, let's see if Shaw makes this work, right? Let's see if he makes it work, because we might need pitching at the trade deadline. We might need another closer. We might need another starting pitcher, a front line guy, Caesar, whoever. We can talk about him in a second. But we might need those things more than we actually need this third baseman, because if Shaw's the guy we think he is, our top prospect, then we're okay at third and we're saving money there. I'm curious how much PTSD the Cubs have. And there's clearly some, based on the fact that they were willing to go 28.5 on Bregman for 3 years with opt-outs. Curious how much PTSD they have from trying it with Morel last year. Right? Well, like they just gave a guy who has power in the major leagues and has shown you he can hit the minors, all that stuff. They gave him a shot at third. He couldn't do it. Now I think Shaw's a way better third baseman already, defensively. But Morel had shown you something at the major league level offensively.
He did.
So how much caution are they taking in a year where they know some jobs are on the line? Like, I think that was part of exploring the Bregman side of it.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, adding Bregman would have increased the floor of the team.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And now they're in a situation where, at this point, at third base, you have Matt Shaw and John Birdie.
And Gage Workman. And Vidal Brujan.
Come on.
Nicky Lopez.
And Nicky Lopez.
He's the Cubs' John Jay.
Nicky Lopez is probably cut now that he couldn't recruit Berkman.
I was staring at the remaining infielders on the free agent market on Spotrac this morning, and it was exhausting trying to decipher through and figure out who I would want the Cubs to go out there and get on a, as like a 1 year stopgap, or not even a stopgap,
right,
just like an insurance policy. Because that's always been the thing, and Like, this is why I was kind of high on them going to get Moncada, because I felt like that bounce back potential was there, and there wasn't a lot after him. Because we never believed in Bregman, right? But now
And
Moncada's
he costs you way less than anybody else. He doesn't cost you prospects. He doesn't cost you anything.
right. But like what? Jose Iglesias, I guess. Like I don't know. This is why on one end of the spectrum I have concern. Because what you just said about the Morel thing, like I have PTSD from that.
Right.
I'm as a big a believer as Matt Shaw as anyone. As many people on our YouTube chat who's probably getting mad at me for making it sound like I don't believe in him, I do believe in him. But we cannot sit here and act like he is going to, hit his peak in year one. We simply cannot do that. If he can be a 2.5 to 3 win player in 2025, awesome.
That's a 2.5, 3 improvement over what they had last year.
Yes, it would definitely be better. That's the only optimism that I'm really getting from it, is the fact that I do think that he will be better than what they had at third base all of last season. But as Theo Epstein once said, man, development isn't always linear, and I expect there to be struggles. I expect it to be a roller coaster. You know what I mean? So, of course, other guys on the team have to live up to what they have been doing on their baseball card, and I think they have enough depth that they can get by. And Shaw, I do believe that he can play third base defensively a lot better than Morel. I do believe that, but it just would have been nice to have a little bit of a better insurance policy. And right now we're rocking with John Birdie, and maybe like I've heard some people talk about Jonathan Long in the minors. Someone asked me about that in TikTok live last night. It's a lot of just, well, if this happens, like I'm not saying hoping and wishing, because I do
a lot of that.
We do a lot of that, but like I think Shaw is a lot more projectable, right? So that's the only reason that I have concern. But
Sean, we got another super chat.
Can you not read it?
Well, there's some
I can
line.
read it.
There was a blue line over the top.
I can read it. No, let's see.
I can't. You want me to read it?
Give it a shot.
Bregman wasn't worth giving up the compensation draft pick for, in my opinion.
well,
$45 super chat. Thanks for the
that's why I was happy that the offer the Cubs sent was an opt out after 2026.
Right.
You would have got him for 2 years, and it would have been in what is presumed as this winning window, because Happ's off the books in 26, Saya's off the books in 26, Tyone's off the books in 26, Warner's off the books in 26, theoretically, right?
Might not be baseball after 26.
Like they would have had a ton of financial flexibility after 2026. So that's why, especially if you were going to sign him and give up those 2 compensation picks, that's why giving him 2 years before that opt-out made sense to me. Obviously, it came down to money. And also, I think we should point out that he just rakes at Fenway Park. I read on Twitter that he had like a 1,200 OPS at Fenway Park.
Yeah, his batting average was like 375.
Yeah.
It was like 8 games or something, but something stupid.
So I'm
Well,
sure
from Bregman's side of it, I mean, this was in my eyes. If I'm Bregman, this was a no-brainer.
Oh yeah,
No-brainer.
I think
I'm
going
going
Sox.
the left field's past practically sitting at third base, and my numbers are going to go up. And in worst case scenario, I'm getting $40 million a year.
Exactly.
Why would he ever opt out of that? By the way, how good would he have to be to opt out of $40 million for the next 3 years? Ride that off into the sunset, man.
Barry, I know Pat is joking here. Paul DeYoung is available to play third base, crickets. As somebody who watched Paul DeYoung play baseball in 2024,
Local guy.
it's not a terrible option. Local guy, very smart, understands launch angles and rockets, and so, very scientific.
Very smart.
But he was pretty decent with the Royals at third base, 5 outs above average. Provides some pop with the bat. That's pretty much it. He's gonna probably hit for like a 200 average, but he might give you 20 homers. So he could be
So
all right veteran.
Could be. We could have Nicky Lopez and Paul DeYoung on the Cubs team this year instead of Madrigal and.
Turns out Nicky Lopez wasn't a factor in the Bregmans.
Yeah. Anyways, all right, we'll get to more of this. I have some more thoughts on where they pivot to next, because there is eventually going to have to be a pivot, and maybe an answer is right here on the old on the Cubs roster already. At least there are signs of that. But first, we have to get to another word from our sponsors.
Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Third word from our sponsors. Introducing, fellas, Sam Adams American Light. It's crisp, it's clean, it's super easy to drink. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American sourced ingredients from local independent farmers. Not so heavy. You don't want to have to feel full and bloated after 3 sips. I need room for the cinnamon rolls and the food. You know what I'm saying? Don't want to be bloated for my beer. Baseball's back, but it's always Sam's season. Looking forward to Cactus League games with a few of these beauties coming out ice cold from the fridge. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light, available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21 and older. Please drink responsibly.
Wake up, Sam Adams. Go to the gym, Sam Adams. Eat lunch with a Sam Adams.
Sam Adams American Light.
Oh yeah. All right. You can have Sam Adams while you're on Game Time. If you're interested in helping Tom Ricketts break even, may I introduce you to going on Game Time and buying tickets to go to Wrigley Field. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. I say what I said with sarcasm, but there is something about being able to just hop on the red line, get to the ballpark, and hop on Game Time. Get the ticket last second. You get the cheapest. That's the best value, but the cheapest way normally. I'm pondering driving down to Champaign on Saturday for Illinois, Michigan State's going to be a huge game. It's going to be a huge atmosphere. Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be there.
Oh man. Oh wow.
I'm pondering. Game
more
Time.
snow. I did see there could be more snow on Saturday.
Oh, God, maybe not. But
well, just something to monitor. That allows you to do it right up to the last minute. Game Time.
yeah, that's true. Well, if I
Don't
live,
jump on it yet.
if you live in Champaign, perhaps maybe that's what you should definitely do.
I will check. Wait out the weather. See what it's like.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. All right, so Game Time just makes it so much easier. Again, with Game Time Picks, they have the all-in pricing, which that feature shows the total up front, so there's no surprise fees. As you all know, me and Luke both hate a bait and switch. That's why we love Game Time, because they don't do that, right? They have a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So, at Wrigley, we know how there's poles there. You don't want to sit behind the pole. That's a very useful feature. And they have the lowest price guarantee with Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Niren, by the way, in the live YouTube chat says the next 60 days are the dog days of Chicago winter. I was pleased to see that you were brushing off your car today on a TikTok video, as opposed to riding a scooter without a helmet on slushy roads where cars are slipping.
I haven't rode the scooter in
So I was glad to see it in scooter here today in 19 degrees and slush.
I bet the e-bike ride would have been fun.
But listen, the bike lanes, we keep those bike lanes pristine here in Chicago.
So it's too cold for that right now, man.
If you want to illegally ride your scooter in the bike lanes, those are clear right now. But I know the TikTok video, I did have me thinking, you're brushing it off, and it was a whole bit. I kept thinking to myself as I was watching it, so I know Cody is holding the phone, recording this with one hand, brushing the car off with the other hand, and talking to the camera. And I'm envisioning people walking their dogs going down the sidewalk going, what is this guy doing?
All I can say is, Luke,
You don't care.
bad.
Yeah.
One, I don't care. Two, you got to be a real sicko to be in this industry. All right, you got to be a real sicko. And the video was inspired by this other video that I saw, because the person was going through they're living the dark days.
You put it on Instagram.
It was on Instagram.
Cody's Instagram.
The dark days of the winter, and so it's like, the Wrigley Field's a mile away, I live in Chicago. Summertime shies is awesome.
This wasn't even bad, though. This was a few inches of snow. Let's all set it down.
It's cold though, and so I'm just like counting down the days to sunshine, being able to ride the bike here, save money on gas, you know. Anyway,
So what are the other options, right? Now that you have Shaw playing third base, it sounds like they're in. But we just heard Jet Hoyer say, yeah, back up at third base, back up at first base, maybe another outfielder, maybe another arm of some kind. I saw, I think it was Megan Montemurro tweeted yesterday that Alexander Canario, a name like we just completely forgot, is a guy who was taking ground balls at first base in Arizona. And you might read too much into this and say, OMG, they're trying to make him the automatic backup at first base, and this is a done deal, and that's what they're going to do. Or you could look at it and say, in reality, this is the smart move. Like, this is a guy who's shown power, didn't do a whole lot with his opportunity last year, and is trying to find a way to make it on this roster opening day. He doesn't have the upside of Contra in the outfield. He doesn't have the upside of Owen Casey, most likely, in the outfield. But if he can be your backup at first base, and he can be your backup in the outfield, along with Seiya Suzuki, so now you have two outfielders that can go out there, that's a way this guy can try and find a roster. So I'm not reading too much into it, but let's just store it away as, let's see if the guy can accomplish it. Now, it doesn't sound, that's not the easiest thing to do, just go on and play first base, but there it is. So here's a guy trying to work on it. I didn't think Madrigal could even remotely play third base, and it turned out he was somewhat serviceable at third, defensively. Sort of.
I can't talk, I'm sorry. Defensively, watching him play the outfield in that short stint last year, it felt like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so,
Felt a little Seiya-ish.
I'm actually kind of glad they're trying to do that. Now, I'll say this. It's better than him just hanging out in Iowa, getting at bats every day.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you're increasing his value if there is some, including him in a trade. If you can say, oh, we worked him out at first base, he's serviceable at first base.
Do we think he could be better than Patrick Wisdom? We don't know.
I don't trust his, as a bat, I don't trust his home run power as much as I trust Wisdom. Now, it was a lot of home runs and strikeouts, but
I trust the home run power. I've seen him hit a couple out there, right?
Yeah.
I think he has the power. I think what he's lacking is just he's not a proven commodity. So there is that risk. We say this all the time. I just went on a whole tangent in the last segment about how I have concerns about third base. That's starting third base. We're talking about a bench option / platoon at first base with Michael Busch here. We talked about Justin Turner the other day.
We talked about Rizzo, who's still on the market.
Right. If they believe in Alexander Canario as a bat, and this is how they feel like they can get him more opportunities to hit and actually be on the 26 man and be an offensive threat on this team, that's the only way that I feel like they'll be able to do it. Also, like a month or two ago, don't you remember me saying like a tinfoil hat theory that maybe they would try and do that?
Yes.
I wish I could find the episode so I could put it out there on the internet. Can't find it because I don't remember which one it was. But the point is I like the idea of it. We just don't know how it will work out. It's almost similar to Shaw, except for the fact that he will be in a bench role. It won't be as a starting position player. Now, if Busch struggles and he actually hits well, then it'd be a huge development. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they're both awesome, right? Like, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. But if he, based off watching him play defense in the outfield, I mean, how much harder can it be for him to transition to first base when he's not going to be a guy that I'll feel comfortable playing corner outfield for the Cubs over the guys that they already have.
Right.
So if this is a way for him to get at bats, then great. Like, because I think a lot of fans, not only just me and you, we forgot about him, you know?
I wasn't even sure he was still in the organization he was talking about so little.
Right. But this was a guy who came back in the Chris Bryant trade, and he's still here, and they haven't traded him for anything. They didn't trade him away like they traded Purvis, just trying to get something for him.
Who's more likely to make this roster? Killian or Canario?
Canario, because they have bench opportunities here. Killian,
Those are the two guys in the Bryant deal, right?
Right. That doesn't mean that I don't feel any different about Killian. I do think Killian has a bigger role in this team down the road if he can just stay healthy and stop walking people. But to me, it's pretty clear that unless a huge development in the spring happens, kind of like what we saw at the beginning of the spring last year before he got hurt, I think most of us all think he's going to start the year now. Canario is a different scenario here because you don't have Patrick Wisdom on the roster anymore. There's opportunities on this bench.
I'm starting to, I don't know what the number is, but I would start to think that maybe Justin Turner becomes more likely.
Yeah.
Unless for some reason he's more than they want to pay for that, but like,
which would be
you're not going to play him a ton at third, but it gives you a little extra insurance along. Unless he's 40.
Yeah.
But he gives you a right-handed bat at first base to go with your left-handed starting first baseman. And over at third, he gives you, what's he played, 90 games there?
90 innings.
In the last 90 innings in the last like two or three years. So not a lot, but you could play him a game or two over at third base and not be like, what a total disaster.
It'd probably be
He
more
gives you a little flexibility both ways. You could be a DH sometimes if Say has moved to the outfield and Tucker needs a day off, or if Tucker, knock on wood, is injured and Say is back in right field. All of those things. But I could see him sort of being that pivot option right now. Tony Gill asked me about Rizzo, and I was like, well, here, the deal with Rizzo is this. It's sort of I think it's just an ego thing, don't you? Like, wouldn't it be very difficult for Anthony Rizzo to swallow his pride? Probably didn't love the way he left, just based on he loved coming back last year with the Yankees. Would have loved to have been a Cub for life. Would have loved to have that deal and been here. Now he's going to come back with his tail between his legs and be like, I'm ready to finish it out and be your backup first baseman / DH. I don't think it's very likely. He's also left-handed, just like your starter. I'd like to have a righty-lefty thing if I can.
That's the big reason why I don't think he would do it. But related to the ego thing, like, let's just remember that Albert Pujols came back to the Cardinals and was in a bench role. Like
I don't know if Rizzo's quite declined to that level, but listen, I'm not saying 0% chance to anybody out there. He's still on it. The flip side of that is, if you're looking for a backup first baseman and Tony Rizzo is willing to take a super, super friendly deal and willing to be a backup and maybe some DH sometimes, you could have worse guys come back to the team, be great in your community, and retire as a Cub. What's the flip side of this? We don't know what his other offers are, but if his other offers are going to play in Pittsburgh and Miami and getting a little more playing time, does that really interest him? I don't know.
He's interested in getting traded at the deadline.
Right. And also, as I thought about the pivot options, so Turner, if you want to throw Rizzo in the mix, is Canario just a legit backup at one of those? Can Birdie or one of those guys start to play these positions? You feel comfortable there? Okay, all of those are options, right? Because they're telling us it's not going to be a big deal now. But Jed's comment was, and in season, it still allows us to do something in season. Pivetta signs with the Padres. 3 years, $55 million, I believe. Does that make it even more likely that at the trade deadline, Cease and/or King go? I'm not saying now, because he's just told us I'm not looking at adding big payroll right now. But you might find out that your starters aren't as good as you think they are.
Yeah.
Right? And what you actually need is that super frontline guy, Dylan Cease maybe, as you push your way through the division and into the postseason. So if it is Cease, and that's the guy you're after, there's multiple things you can do. Number one, not getting Bregman means you're not trading Nico Horner right now, which would have been, for two reasons, not a great idea right now. One, We don't know how healthy he is. So that's already lowered some of his value. Number two, if you sign Bregman to $28.5 million, teams know that you're desperate to unload Nico Horner. You're not only unloading him injured, you're unloading him when they know you're up against what you are putting a cap on yourself. Why not ride it out through the season? Let Nico have a good season, and if you are indeed going to eventually move on from him, and if that's what it takes to get Cease for the push over the end, you've increased the value of Nico. You've realized what you actually need to get it done, because then you also have an answer somewhat on what Shaw can and cannot do over at third base, right?
Yeah.
And it still leaves you way more flexibility, whether it's a pipe dream or not, to try and sign Tucker to a multi-massive deal in the offseason. That's the smaller part of it. I'm just saying, if they're saying, when he's pointing out mid-season trades, it is likely that pitching will be the bigger need later in the season. And your assets hopefully will have appreciated some.
My concern with this direction, if that is the case, if they are not going to talk trade, if they're not
going to make a big trade now for King or Cease.
If they're out on Cease or any of these guys that they've been in the rumor mill all off season, whether it's with the Padres, whether it's with the Mariners, whether it's with the Twins, whether a name out there that we don't even know about, right? If they're done with that right now, the concern I have is that what if the Padres are in it at the end of July?
Yeah.
Right? I don't personally think they will be at this point, because they've done nothing outside of signing Pavetta. But that you look at their roster and you're like, yeah, they should be good. But projections on Dakota last week were around 82, 83 wins.
83.
They added a pitcher today or yesterday who's solid, right? They perhaps they're better than that. If Tatis is healthy, perhaps they surpass that projection, right? So I have concern with that. My thing about the Padres that I'm just so confused is they've been trying to shed payroll all offseason, but then just added to their payroll yesterday. So if Jed's telling us that he's not doing that, does that mean is he, first off, is he lying? Or second off, are the Padres lying to us? Or are they going to make a trade with someone else for Cease?
Yeah, are they signing Pavetta to set themselves up? That's what I was questioning. Like, when they signed him for this deal and they have a surplus of pitchers, are they setting themselves up so they can make that deal? Whether it be now to a team that's desperate for starting pitching, or are they willing to ride it out for part of the season, see where they're at, and then they make that deal? Either way, I think Pavetta's a move towards trading one of those guys eventually.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like if Dylan Cease is going to be a Cub, it's going to be before opening day. I don't feel like he'll be a Cub if we're talking in July. I could certainly be wrong. Could completely be reading this completely wrong. I mean, do we think that we read everything wrong about Bregman? I mean, the whole increase of AAV just came out of nowhere last night, right? So
I didn't see it getting that high.
Right. And I even listened to Section 10, which is Jared Carrab's big Red Sox podcast. Huge Red Sox podcast. Those guys, Jared Carrab's literally said 1% chance before what happened yesterday, before like the development of adding money to things. He gave them a 1% chance to get Bregman. So when that development happens, that's how a deal gets done. Are the Cubs willing to go that extra mile to get a trade done for 1 year Dylan Cease? I at this point, I'm not sure. They have plenty of space. They can add him. They can add Cease now and not even trade Nico. You know what I mean? Like, right. The trade for Cease, hypothetically, we could throw in Assad and Alcantara. That would be like what I would ideally want to happen. But I'm sure that the Padres would rather have Casey because he's a former prospect up there. So does Jed want to move Owen Casey? He didn't want to move Owen Casey for Jesus Luzardo 2 months ago, which
guy's playing better this season at AAA.
Right. So I just wish I knew all the answers to these questions. But I don't see Dylan Cease being on the Padres on opening day, but I also don't know where he'll be. So it's gonna be fascinating to watch play out. All I know is that the Cubs can't sit on their hands the rest of the spring. They gotta add a Justin Turner. They gotta add some.
So I would still count that as a smaller to. He even kind of knocked the mid chips off, so that scares me a little bit that they're pretty much done. Does it mean the only money they can spend now? Is there anybody else out there that floats your boat? We've still said Robertson.
Yeah.
Right, like something. At least add some small pieces to the bullpen. Some more keep adding to that bullpen.
I mean, we already looked at it though. It's like it's
a little bit of it's a bit of a numbers crunch.
I feel like if the one thing this team for sure needs, if we're gonna go with Shaw at third base, which I'm completely for and I completely support, is that getting that top end starting pitcher. That's the only thing that I'm like, that's what we need. Because I like Steele and I like Shota. I think those guys are awesome. They need another guy at the top that can get more whiffs. And that's what a guy like Dylan Cease does. Is there another name out there? I don't think so. Who knows? But some form of that I feel like they need. And if they don't get that, I'll feel comfortable with the rotation for half the season, but I don't know if I'll feel comfortable about it for the full season. But I hope and pray that you get the same type of results as you did last year with the starting rotation. It was awesome. But I do have concerns with it.
If Cease is not traded and he is available at the trade deadline, sweet. And you would have an answer on what is Boyd going to give me this year? Which guy is Boyd going to be? Is he going to be a top 3 guy that we hope he is? And is he going to exceed projections? Is Cade Horton going to exceed projections when he gets his shot? Is Ben Brown going to exceed projections when he gets his shot? They're kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit after missing out on Bregman. But the way it's unfolded isn't the worst. I would say, again, Jordan Wicks, all those guys. So you have some opportunities to see either A, what those guys are or what they are not. And hopefully some of it, there's more there than what some people might think. Right? Now, by the way, did you see PCA's hair? Have you seen his hair? Last year he showed up with the blue dew, right? Like he just dyed his hair all blue, and we said, this guy's got to hit. Now the Cubs have put out, he's got stars on his head. Stars, blue stars. Now that's bold.
This is a normal thing for me at this point. After
PCA's hair, he's the Dennis Rodman of the future.
Yeah, like he, after beating him, just talking to him, like, that's just the kind of guy he is. So,
what's next?
He showed up to Cubs convention looking like Eminem.
That's right. Yeah.
Now he looks like Eminem with the public blue stars in his head.
Blue stars.
I think that just kind of describes PCA's personality, but also like, you got, like, did you just say that you got to be real bold to do something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think
you have a great personality.
I think that's like that's a confidence. That's a confidence. He's not afraid of the cameras, all that stuff.
Afraid of the spotlight and the cameras, that's for sure.
So, I like it. And we got 7 minutes here. I can shift to a more positive outlook here. And I know a lot of the show I've probably come off as like kind of negative. And I hate that I'm doing that, but I'm just voicing my concerns. But PCA is one of those guys. They're going to need to, I don't know about exceeding projections, but they're going to need him to take a step forward this coming season, which I think he can. I'm optimistic about. And I'm really excited about his 2025. So,
man, if they sucked us into saying exceed projections over and over. It's their words. It's their words.
Domino's, get the pizza you've always wanted but never dared to get, with any crust and any toppings for $9.99.
That is where I do believe that they've sort of kicked the can a little bit now that Bregman's off there, and I think Bregman was sort of that didn't go well with Morel. We better have a backup plan. Let's see if we can thread the needle on this in reality, I don't know that their offer was any better than third, but they did make a play. And in Jed Hoyer's defense, that's probably the best play he could have made.
It was.
With 20 and 5.
Yeah.
Because that still would have meant dealing Nico Horner. And in reality, getting stuck with Bregman with the opt-outs potentially at third, if he's not that guy. Now Shaw has to move over to second base, which is okay, but now you still have the same questions at second base about the offense.
Yeah, but you have a player with a higher floor at third base.
But defensively, probably not as good as Nico Horner at second base. I'm just saying, Nico Horner has some value. Let's not.
No, I agree.
I'm always disappointed that he's not a 15 to 20 homer guy. But a lot of teams would want Nico Horner healthy on their team.
Yeah,
he's the right fit on a lot of teams.
I promise you, I'd rather be talking about that scenario than the one we're talking about today. That's
you had bought into the Bregman stuff. You finally decided, yep, we better get him.
I had bought in because everything happened that I thought would happen.
Yeah.
He's sitting here in mid-February, wondering when he was going to sign. He was never going to go. If he didn't take the 6-year deal with the Tigers, he was never going to go to Detroit. And I don't think he really would have gone to Boston if they didn't increase that AAV. Deferrals or not.
Which I've seen people say with the deferrals, it's roughly $5 million different than what each year, different than what the Cubs were offering. Okay, $5 million. Would you should they have gone another 5 to go get him? I think the offer, personally, I think the offer they made
was the only
that
offer.
player was as high as they needed to go.
Yeah, they offered.
And so I don't disagree with them.
I don't disagree on Jet. Like I can't.
Correct.
Like I said, I cannot.
If you want to tell the ownership, we saw Bruce Levine tweeted that Hoyer said he had many texts and conversations and emails about the money of it with Tom Ricketts. Okay, so there you have it. That he doesn't want to do deferrals. That's a Ricketts decision. They're not big on deferrals, but I think that's from ownership. He doesn't want to do deferrals, and he didn't want to go too far into the luxury tax now. That's sure the way it sounds, right? And for Alex Bregman, now I wish, as we all said, okay, well, if you're willing to go this close with Bregman, why not just blow through it and go for Soto back in the day? Or whoever, Judge, whatever the play might be.
As we close, this is just more like frustration with ownership that we have. I'm not sitting here asking the Cubs to spend $500 million every offseason, Luke. I'm asking them to just stop slapping us fans in the face, dude. One of the more expensive experiences in all of baseball. We got the Cubs salespeople calling Carm 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months. They called me 3 or 4
Thank
times.
the Sox fan to buy season tickets.
They're calling me 3 or 4 times the last 3-4 years. They've lowered the season ticket package from all 81 home games to 20 because they're desperate for people to show up. And that's not true. They're not desperate for people to show up because Wrigley Field is a tourist attraction, no matter what anyone wants to think. So people are going to show up no matter what, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Let's just be honest about it, right? I'm really just doing everything to make Godfather nod his head yes right now, I'm sure. And so with all those things, it's just why can't we why do we have to put this cap on ourselves, man? If we were a true mid-market team or something like that, I would not be this frustrated with ownership. But you are a big market team, and they should be at the luxury tax at going into opening day. I mean, based off what these comments and stuff, it sounds like we're not going to. Now, if you spend that money, if that means maybe that money goes to Kyle Tucker, okay, great. But
I'll forget all about Alex Bregman
until that happens, it reinforces anyone's concerns about the Cubs giving that long-term extension. to Kyle Tucker, and this whole philosophy about deferrals certainly makes me uneasy about getting that contract extension done with Kyle Tucker in season, at the end of the season, in December. It certainly makes me feel uneasy, and it just should not be this way. That's the full on point, man. It should not be this way.
What did Mr. Mohawk Tommy just say? Because I think I agreed with it when I saw it in the live YouTube chat. He said they made a more than fair offer to Bregman. No way he is worth $40 million a year. Shaw's more than ready to give the Cubs a quality player, possible rookie of the year. Let's go Cubs. That's the positive outlook you got to think on it. And they still have the money. If you want to go on the bright side of the storm from yesterday, look at it like this. They saved the money. It's still there to be used, hopefully, when the time is right for the right piece, whether that's pitching or batting or hitting and whatever you want to call it.
To play for the Cubs.
To play for the Cubs, right?
Yeah.
That money is still there, and now we get to see Shaw. Now we get to see what their best prospect is really like this season moving forward. By the way, a great time to sign up to be a diehard because there's still so many questions going up about this team.
I'll be in the Discord. I'll be in the Discord later today.
Discord, you get the discounts, you get the discounts on the merch, you get the free shirt right now. All of those things are out there. Last thing I want to ask you real quick, and I know this is not a fully baked idea for you. Bregman's not coming. What grade right now would you give this Cubs offseason?
A B+.
But I do feel like it's better than a C.
It's way better than a C.
Tucker ensured that it was going to be better than a C, and they've added some starters, they've added some bullpen help. It's maybe not the offseason you dreamed of, but they've added a superstar.
They've added more certainty. As much as I sat here this last hour and talked a lot about questions, concerns, because you don't know what you're going to get out of Matt Shaw, this and that, there is more certainty on the team. There is more projected. There's my optimistic outlook. Is I think that they have more depth and they have more certainty on the roster. So I guess the good news also is
they're all going to die. I know what you should say.
That's always the good news. Is always that. Yes.
Yeah.
But the other good news is that now we don't have to talk about Alex Bregman for the rest of the spring.
Well, maybe next week, but not too much.
What? And then also people online don't have to get mad about us asking about Alex Bregman, even though we weren't the ones who asked about Alex Bregman to Jed whenever he showed up to spring training.
Sort of hoping he tanks with Boston, to be honest with you.
Cody, Corey is wondering about Friday 120 clubs. Is that just every Cubs game?
It's every Friday home game.
There you go. So we do have a schedule.
The home
Lock
opener.
it in.
We'll be there for the home opener this year.
Bring your sign. Bregman's a bum. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Corey Brendan have a podcast for you at 1:30 coming up tomorrow. I'm sure they'll have more to say about the Bregman decision to go to Boston. Until then, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Hit the like button. Thumbs up. W.
Sparkle Terrace Square. More choices, more value.
Coming up on the CHGO Cubs podcast, it's Bregman Watch in a blizzard. The Cubs are down to the final three. Plus, the stage is set for a pitching showdown in Tokyo, and the Cubs promotional schedule is out. Get your bobblehead. CHGO Cubs next.